Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Mindset Podcast, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you all for tuning in today and listening to the podcast. Thank you guys for those of you who share the show as well. It's been awesome to hear some feedback from you guys. I love getting some of the DMs talking about how you guys are utilizing some of this information within your own businesses and how it is helping you. Obviously, that's the reason that I do it. I don't charge any money for this podcast. I don't make any money. I do this solely out of the purpose to help you guys and share some of the things that I have learned along the way that can help you in your own businesses. With that being said, I wanted to go over something today. I'm going to make this quick and right to the point, but I think it's extremely beneficial for most of you guys to understand. And this is going to help those of you guys that are not only business owners, but also employees within a business. And the topic that I wanted to talk about today with you guys is complacency within the workplace, or complacency as a small business and entrepreneur. I can tell you guys, over my years of coaching people, over my years of managing people, over my years of being an employee myself and working within companies, one of the biggest things I see happen is when people tend to, start off as an organization, they start off as a newer employee, and we've all seen them where they come out and they become absolute rock stars. This also is the same for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where maybe they start a business and they get a head start ahead of everybody else, where they just kind of have, the right drive, the right ambition, the right motivation behind them, and they take off as a business owner and they get a lot of traction right out of the gate. And what happens is you go through this cycle where, as a business owner or as an employee within the company, you start to see some success, you start to get recognition, you start to, kind of feel like you're on top of the hill, right? King of the hill, as they would say. And then what happens is you tend to stop growing and you tend to stop developing, and you do what's called a level out mode within your guys' business. The problem with this is that over time, if you tend to do really well and you become the rock star of a business, or you become the rock star of a small business that everybody's giving you recognition for, you start to make a little bit of money and you think things are going really well, and you're hesitant to continue to grow because you just don't think you need to at that point in time. And let me share with you guys the reason you don't want this to happen within your guys' business. So I'm going to share an example that I see this in the real estate space. Obviously, I'm in real estate, and I see this with agents all the time, where they come out the gate, they're hungry, they're ambitious, they're motivated, they're driving, they're doing everything they possibly can in their business, they're putting in the work, and then rightfully so, they begin to get some traction and they begin to get some business from all of the efforts that they put in, because they are hungry, motivated, and driven, like we said. Then over time, as they start to get a little bit of, momentum, a little bit of traction, they tend to level out. They don't get as hungry as they were. They don't focus on continued growth. They don't continue on, focus on continued trying to find new ways to do things. And then what happens is, after a while, they kind of plateau. So sales are good. They're doing okay. They're not growing. They're not shrinking. They're just doing okay, because in their eyes, they were king of the hill within the organization, or they're king of the hill within whatever small business industry that they're in. Now, what happens is as things continue to develop and go on with time, other people within that organization are going to come in, or other people that are currently in that organization are going to continue to have personal development and growth, and they are now going to rise. Eventually, as time goes on, they're going to pass the skill sets of the individual that got heavy right out the gate, crushing it. And eventually that person is now bottom of the stack, and that person actually phases out, or that small business owner that once had all of the momentum, everything going in their favor, eventually falls out of business because they stop growing. I've seen this myself in business, where I started off as a, brand new real estate agent. I was competing against agents that have been in the business for a really, really long time. I was extremely motivated. I was extremely hungry. I put in the work. I constantly was looking to grow, learn, evolve, find new ways to do things. And if I had to be honest with you guys, that's the only thing that's really carried me through success these days, is I'm constantly looking for new ways to do things, right? There's certain things that I do within my business that are the same I've always done, such as consistency, conversations with people, but I'm always looking for new ways to market. I'm always looking for new ways to streamline the processes. I'm always looking for new options to provide my customers and clients with to stay relevant within today's industry. And I've passed a lot of people up that have been in the business much longer than I have, simply because they were unwilling to adapt and change and potentially learn new things. I've seen this happen time and time again with new agents that come into our brokerage, new agents that have come on my team. They've came out, they've been absolutely phenomenal. They killed it. They put in the work. They were hungry. They got a few months of sales underneath them belt, thought they were doing pretty good, thought they had everything figured out. They stopped developing. They stopped growing. And then what happened was, after a while, everybody else that was maybe not growing as fast eventually caught up and then surpassed them, because they were constantly willing to learn. So while their path to the top may not have been as fast, eventually it's kind of like this story of the tortoise and the hare, where those people eventually do go on and move past what was considered the superstar of the industry or the superstar within that business. And after a while, that person then struggles with not maintaining the top status within that company or top status within that industry. They get frustrated, and in some cases, they actually fall out of business, which I've seen happen quite a bit. So the point of all this for you guys is that you guys need to constantly focus on always learning to evolve and always learning to grow and always setting that bar higher and always moving, right? Don't celebrate yesterday's wins and ride out on that. What you guys do today and what you guys win and the accomplishments you guys have should be behind you, and you're always focusing on doing new things. You don't want to be that person that basically gets their ego so big that they think they don't need to learn anything new. They don't need to evolve. They don't need to challenge themselves. They don't need to grow, because if you keep that mindset, eventually you will get passed up in business. There's been a ton of businesses in the past that have gone out. Blockbuster was replaced by Netflix, if you guys remember, right? Because they were unwilling to adapt to changes. At one point, they had a business model completely figured out. The newspaper, how many newspapers have you guys seen that have gone out of business? Because at one point that was considered the best way to get news and media out to people, until social media came along and developed a better way, right? Had these businesses had a forward-thinking mindset, didn't get it in their heads that they were the best in the industry and they didn't need to change anything, they probably would still be around today if they're willing to adapt and evolve and change and constantly strive to find new ways to stay on top of, cutting edge technology within their business and industry to keep them as a leader. So don't let this be you in business. Don't let your guys' temporary success get to your head and tell yourself that you don't need to learn anything new and that you've got it all figured out. That's not to say that there's not core principles that you're doing today and a solid work ethic that got you to where you are, but you guys can't pay attention or ignore, I should say, the things that are going to carry you ahead, and just assume that, because you guys have it all figured out today, that won't change tomorrow. Again, it's all about growth. It's all about progression. It's always about staying hungry. It's always about staying ahead of the curve. You guys have to make sure you put a focus on this so that you're not one of those agents, or you're not one of those lenders, or you're not one of those title people that eventually, yes, you are doing very well today, but over time, everybody passes you up because you're unwilling to adapt and learn. You think you got it all figured out, and then now your business is gone and you guys fall out of the business. We saw this happen through 2020, 2021, and especially today in this market and industry where things look very different than they did in 2015, 16. I've seen people that were absolutely dominating 3 to 4 years ago that today are hardly doing anything because they were unwilling to adapt. They were unwilling to change. They lost their hunger. They lost their drive. They lost their ambition because their success had gotten to their head early on, and they didn't think they had anything else to learn and evolve. And again, guys, this is the one thing that has carried me on. And for those of you guys that have been following me for a long time on social media and started with me from day one in my business, you guys have seen how much I've grown and how much I've evolved. And even now, if you go back and look at my marketing, you guys look at my systems, you guys look at my processes, even my thought process on the way that I handle things over time and experience, that's the only thing that's kept me alive this long in this business. It's the only thing that's going to continue to carry me on. And I hope that you guys take that, to heed in your guys' own personal business. As always, I hope you guys have an absolutely crazy, amazing, beautiful week out there. Make sure you guys are setting that bar high. Make sure you guys are setting your goals high. Make sure you guys are not letting your foot off the gas. Don't live on yesterday's wins. Yesterday's wins were great, but today's a new day. This is a new week. Make sure you guys are out there focusing on setting that bar high, and get out there and let's crush it.